From the southernmost point of Dorne to the lands of always winter, and what is west of Westeros and the shadows in the east, this is Casterly Talk. And I'm Ken Napzok, and we are back here for a Game of Thrones rewatch. We've been having a lot of fun lately, talking about the news, taking your questions. Alden Diaz has been on the show the last couple times. We always appreciate that. Tonight, we're going to spend some time with Tyrion Lannister. Oh, that's right. This is because we are taking a look back at Season 4, Episode 6, The Laws of Gods and Men. Wow. What an episode. Kind of forgot that. More on that in a second. Original air date, May 11th, 2014. Where were you? Director Alex Sakharov is the director. Sakharov, was the cinematographer for many of the great episodes in season 1 and 2 before moving into the directing side of it. So, without a doubt, beautifully shot episode, though the cinematographer was Fabian Wagner on this, but you got to imagine they shared some notes on how to make it even that much more pretty. And for an episode that is mostly in a courtroom, the Red Keep, if you will, a dungeon, a bank office, and the throne room in Meereen. We got a big action sequence with Yara Greyjoy and Theon and Ramsay, but other than that, we got a lot of sitting, we got a lot of talking, and in not super exciting places, just in terms of the settings. And this episode does look beautiful. They shot the crap out of it there. That's the official analysis. Shot the crap out of it there. Brian Cogman, the keeper of the lore, is the writer here, and that makes some sense. Great episode for him. Editor was Crispin Green. So we always like to take the overall look at these episodes as we look back. And as I said, I honestly forgot how great this episode really is. And yeah, it's mostly because of Peter Dinklage and the ballad of Tyrion Lannister, the sad, and then angry ballad of Tyrion Lannister at the trial. But in addition to that, you know, in season 4 and this kind of middle area of the show, we definitely have more time to spend with the characters, this we know. And these are some slow roasting, a lot of talking, just searing, poignant dialogue. Some of the best stuff there. Just some of the best stuff. A lot of great looks. A lot of wonderful acting performances in this episode. One of the things for me that, without a doubt, Peter Dinklage is kind of the man of the hour here. This was an episode which saw him, he got nominated for a Primetime Emmy this season. And I think it was a little bit of, I think this is the episode they submitted, and without a doubt, it's some of his finest work. But a bunch of little looks, little reads, little takes from all the actors, from Emilia Clarke on down to Joel Fry as his star, and Mark Gatiss as Tycho Nestoris. The little wonderful acting choices throughout this episode. That's another reason I think it stands out as one of the best, but it can be easy to just look at the Tyrion stuff and remember the Tyrion stuff over all the other things, but some important things in there as we look at here. Thanks again for all of you join us for the podcast here. This is, if you're watching, whether it be on the Spotify video version or YouTube, you're just watching me with my Davos beard recorded podcast here. So apologize if I look down at notes and all that good stuff there. The reaction then versus the legacy now, or reaction then and the legacy now. Interesting to note that at the time, the viewing was down to only, big quotes around only, 6.4 million. That's down from 7.1 million. That's in the initial viewing. I think another 1.5, maybe a little under that, but about 1.5 million on subsequent viewings. This is more during an era where that kind of it's big numbers no matter where you are, but that kind of number on more of a traditional pay cable kind of platform, we're not fully in the streaming world here at this time. We're getting there. We're getting close. Netflix and all those things going pretty good, but not where we are now in 2022, where the numbers can at times be a little murky and a little more spread out, and maybe sometimes you're beholden to the old standards on numbers and all the good stuff. But you look at these kind of numbers and they're insane. So, but interesting to note, it's only 6.4 million, which reflects always the week before, and people kind of maybe waiting. If you're kind of a consistent but casual Game of Thrones fan, maybe you're like, I'll wait till the trial gets going, or wait till the trial's after. Just the way it is. Of course, I think if you're listening or watching this show, you probably didn't skip an episode. Again, like I said, Peter Dinklage nominated for an Emmy. Well deserved there. My reaction then, and kind of where it stands now on some of the Greyjoy stuff. I've been tracking that as I've been rewatching season 4 for myself, and so curious to hear what a lot of you think about the Greyjoy stuff here. I've always liked the Greyjoy stuff. I had the chance to mention before here to play Balon Greyjoy in School of Thrones on YouTube, so because of that, I think I was kind of a little affinity for the Greyjoys. And it's a darker story in any way you look at it. Darker because of the themes, darker because of what's going on, what happens to Theon and the characters around it. Just darker because of where they are mostly out there in Pike. It's a little gloomy, a little rainy, not a lot of sunshine in the Greyjoys. That joy part of it, I guess they enjoy Grey because not a lot of joy in the stuff going on there. They're dour, serious folk, aren't they? So when you think of the Greyjoy storylines, they don't pop, literally and figuratively, don't pop out in your memories. But I do love them, and I love where they go. But in watching season 4 and watching a lot of the Reek stuff, as I've mentioned before, even some of the other stuff, it's not that it doesn't stand up for me, or that I think any of the torture and violence is too much or anything like that. I love where the story goes. I have a lot of empathy for Theon. He earns that empathy. And he earns it because of the journey. And there's so many great moments like the ones in this episode where you do feel for him. Whether or not you fully understand it, I thought it was a little harder for the show to get that out. You see it, as we've talked before. You see Theon. You know it's Alfie Allen as Theon. There was no surprise on who this Reek was. The book got to play it differently, and the show had to approach it from a different angle. So we can discuss the themes and stuff a little bit later. But in watching this particular episode, I do remember at the time, when we really see Yara, and she's, her and her father got the little box from Ramsay, and it's Theon's favorite toy. And I cried when I took it, and she's going to take the 50 toughest SOBs from the Iron Islands and head on out. I wanted that story. I really like Yara. Really think she's a good character, and really wanted her just to, not really fully knowing where it was going, just wanted to charge in there, kick Ramsay's ass, and save Theon and save the day. Not where the story's going, not where the story's about, not the why of Theon's journey. It is a journey that's about true identity, purpose, redemption, overcoming your mistakes, processing trauma. A lot of big things going on there. And we all know where it ends up. And I really like where it ends up. I like Theon's final moments. I like his final arc. I like how he kind of finds his true purpose and stuck between two families, and the lesson that you are both. You're Stark, you're Greyjoy. You are more than just this name. So I think there's some big valuable things in Theon's. But at the time, and Theon's story, excuse me, at the time, I remember it all kind of resolved. Yara's journey here resolved really fast for me. And it still is really fast. But looking back, I just don't think it's fair. Why I don't consider Theon a B player. His storyline is maybe a little bit of a B in the old classic ABC storyline, and putting together a sitcom script, if you will. He's kind of a B storyline. It's more of a personal journey. He does essentially save the day along with a lot of other people. I think everyone's on these journeys to how they save the day in different ways. But without him, he stands there, protects Bran, not Braun, to the end. So I think that's valuable. But looking back, especially in season 4, the Greyjoy stuff it's there for me. And at times, it's like, I got it. Good. I know where it goes. I don't need to spend as much time with it as I used to. Nothing against anyone involved. I think Alfie Allen just absolutely kills it in this role. Gets better and better as the show goes on. I think some of his best work comes in season 7 and 8. Really do love, like I said, Yara. So it's all there. But that's it for me in the rewatch. It's there. So that's something that's felt it then and kind of entrenched in my heart now as a viewer. Not to take anything away from, especially if you're a Greyjoy fan out there, which is interesting. Other than me kind of having a silly affinity for the Greyjoys because of a YouTube short I was in, I haven't run into a lot of Greyjoy fans out there. So curious if you're a Greyjoy fan, like me being a Stannis stan is my own problem. It's my own thing to deal with. But there's a lot of Stannis fans out there. I do run into them. One of our dedicated listeners, Eric Monroe, always calling in and reminding everyone out there, like I do, that Stannis is, the Iron Throne is his by right. But I don't run into a lot of Greyjoy fans, and that I get it. But sometimes I feel sorry for the Greyjoys. I do. All right. So what is this episode known for? I think we can start here with the Wrath of Tyrion. We got one of the greatest speeches. I mean, it might be. There's a chance I would call this the greatest speech in the show. I mean, it's worth discussing. Maybe I'll grab some other panelists here. We'll put together a list of greatest speeches. I mean, this is almost a rant, but it's a speech. But if this one ends up being the speech, it's well deserved. It's well earned. We're with Tyrion from episode 1 on, and we know what's going on, and we know the farce that's at play here, and we're going to dive into some little details of that, of course. But this episode is known and should be known for the "I wish I was the monster you all think I am" speech. His heartbreaking, his soul-breaking, rage taking over, righteous anger, all that factoring in. But I think that's the biggest takeaway from this episode is what's going on with him. But I also submit this episode might indirectly be most known for the Tyrion blooper scene, the clip of Peter Dinklage kind of dancing with the shackles on in that blooper that got out there, and you see that still pop up a lot, the dance thing. So that's the most important thing in this episode, to take that. But interesting to note, this is a Starkless episode. There's definitely mentions of the Starks, especially Sansa Stark, but no Starks appear in it. So there you go. Interesting side note on that. Side note, the episode, the trial, and all those that turned on Tyrion. We'll get to Shay. Those that didn't stand up. Varys and his choice. Not a surprising Varys choice. It's so not surprising. It's just like my favorite thing. It's one of my favorite things in this episode and Game of Thrones is Varys being like, I protect the realm. I survive. You know the position I'm in. I got to do what I got to do. But then he does end up helping Tyrion. I love their relationship, but I love this moment. So I love the Varys stuff in this episode. This episode has some things that we love looking at, the impact on the story, the impact on us, the audience, and a little foreshadowing, maybe things that have more meaning now. Stannis, we start in Braavos, of course, and go to the Iron Bank. Mark Gaddis shows up as Tycho, and that's our first introduction. I love, if you go to the extras here, you got Benioff and Weiss kind of both saying, we always heard about the Iron Bank. You don't hear a lot about banking in high fantasy. We want to spend some time there. And it's very effective. Really do love that scene. But the end result here, if we look at how this impacts the story, it's pretty big. It's pretty big. Stannis getting the support he needs, getting the gold he needs from the Iron Bank will, of course, help send him to where he feels he needs to go, which is the Wall, which has a pretty big effect on the realm, pretty big effect on the story. It's a victory moment for Stannis. We'll get to it. Can't wait to get to it. But when we get there, and we know what happens, but he's going to start his slide. But him it's truly a butterfly effect from my point of view, when him getting this goal goes up to the Wall. But also the Iron Bank throwing behind him puts added pressure on what we already know, what Tyrion has told Cersei and us. There's no gold in our caverns anymore, in our minds. It's not there. We need the Iron Bank. We need the gold. It is the true power in the land. And so them being convinced by Davos, giving one of his great speeches, we should point out, it has ramifications. We'll see a lot of that play out. The need for gold, the need for funds, also means there's going to be a loot train that's going to get looted and burned. So there's a lot of little effects going out there. So I think it's a pretty big impact, and it's a great quiet scene. A dramatic scene in a bank lobby in Game of Thrones. I do, going back to the Theon stuff, I consider this episode, Yara considers this, hey, this is where he dies. Now they do get reunited, and there's a little bit of Theon coming back to life. But where I don't think Theon is dead and dead and gone in any kind of theory, I do say this is the episode where Theon is kind of permanently fractured. There's no going back for this one after a while. He is even his recovery is not exactly he doesn't get back to where he once was. So I look at him absolutely breaking and not never being the same is the point here. And again, Yara says, my brother is dead. Not exactly true, but I think that has an impact on the story. Absolutely. Tywin playing with playing his kids like they're chess pieces. Something that's not new. We, oddly enough, around these parts, have a healthy respect for Tywin and his ability to strike back with barely raising a pen. Not going to war if he doesn't need to. He will, but if he doesn't need to, it's all about the machinations, the power plays. And the reveal in this episode that he was able to take a little bit of this chaos with Tyrion getting arrested and accused of this crime, and he's going to spin it into what he needs and get Jaime to leave the King's Guard, go back to the Rock. He's going to keep Tyrion alive and in Tywin's ways protect his dynasty that he wants to last for 1,000 years. We'll get to what goes on with that, but the impact on the story is for me, where this season ends, it's just proof that Tywin, obviously, as we know, has no loyalty no true love of his children, and sees them as pieces in the name game, in the Lannister name game, and that is going to lead to his undoing. He's so great. He is so great at this game. Truly, as even the Iron Bank says, the true power in the land, in terms of just in names and people who have the power. His undoing is his children. His undoing is his inability to truly love his family, to truly love his offspring, and never putting them above his own needs. And so it's on display here. It's a thing where we're like, Jaime Lannister is not, I wouldn't call him happy. He's making a big moment here. This is a big moment for Jim, making a big decision where he, is going to sacrifice a lot in his own life, not being near Cersei, leaving the King's Guard, going back to the Rock where he doesn't want to. He's going to do all those sacrifices for Tyrion. It's a great Jaime moment, but that doesn't even matter for Tywin. That's part of the pain. That's part of the wonderful look on Jaime's face is, you kind of already knew this. This is what you wanted. Here I am thinking I'm taking a big stand. Here I am. I'm having, maybe not necessarily a hero's moment, but doing maybe what I feel is right. Perhaps one of the only times in my life, or at least the last few years, I'm taking this big stand. Do this, Dad. You cannot kill your son. And Tywin's like, yeah, of course. Duh. Yeah. He'll go to the Night's Watch. You'll go back to the Rock. I'll get what I want. This farce of a trial that I know is a farce and I'm overseeing will end. It's all a power play for me. And I think in a way that Tywin can't go back from this kind of stuff. Certainly can't go back with Tyrion. And I think you got Jaime being the one to help him. And I think it's moments like these that lead to his undoing. So a little bit of definitely impact and a little bit of foreshadowing there. For me as a Stannis fan, impact on the story and impact on me as an audience member, this might be only for me, fully aware of that. The Davos speech and what he represents to us as an audience, always kind of the common sense guy, always got those, well, I might not be a learned man, but here's some truth that you can't escape. Love that about Davos. Liam Cunningham is great in these moments. And this is one of my favorite ones. I always say I'm a big Stannis fan. Just love Stephen Delane in the role. There's a lot of reasons I love the character. But in the end, there's something kind of personal. There's some things I take from his journey and who he was at the beginning of the story. Loyal to a fault. Loyal at sometimes no bigger cost than to himself. And he lets it all consume him. It's not just a quest for power. It's a quest for, I'm going to stand up for myself and get what I feel is mine. And it turns into its own kind of lust for power, thirst, and greed, and leads to his death. He loses who he is. And that's the big thing. Stannis loses who he is. And in this moment here, before the ruling parties in the Iron Bank, Davos gives this great speech. And because a lot of people, even back then, a lot of people aren't rooting for Stannis. I keep thinking the value of the speech and the why of the speech. What does it mean to have Davos give this? This is the only bet you should make. And he lists these qualities. He'll get the army. He's a proven commander. He's in his prime. He's got the birthright. And gloves come off. He'll pay his debts. It's honor. The bank doesn't respond to the honor of it. They respond to he'll do his duty and we'll get our money back. We like that. We like the stories numbers tell. That's why I love this scene so much. But the big why of it is this picture of what Stannis could be. And perhaps maybe if you want to push it out bigger, to what we all could be. When we take our best traits and we take what we can truly bring to the table. And can we live up to that? Stannis never lives up to the Stannis that Davos sees, but it's constant. I think at one point, Stannis was always grumpy. Stannis was always Stannis. But I think at one point he probably was a little bit of a better human than he was by the time we see him. But even then, we obviously don't see him in season 1, and he leaves. I think he leaves for good reason. But then he sees an opportunity to get what he feels is his, and that's the danger. So all that to say, I really love this speech. I really love Davos's passion for it. And Davos is kind of always in that spot between two worlds in a way. Kind of loved by everyone, almost. And I just love the moment, and I love it for Stannis, but I love it for just this idea of the pursuit of these things, the pursuit of power, the pursuit of the throne. It will cost you. We see that time and time again. It will cost you. And those that seem to pursue it too hard and lose themselves pay the bigger price. Whereas those who seem to release themselves of wanting this and find themselves in other ways and other methods on other paths, they seem to be, I don't know if anyone ever really wins in Game of Thrones, but I think they find themselves in a better position than many others. And Stannis is definitely in the many others category. But I love this moment. It is Davos saying this is what he could be. Davos sees it as what he is and what is there, but it's what he could be and what Stannis could have been if he just made some different decisions. But anyways, that's just me rooting for my guy Stannis. I know a lot of you don't. Foreshadowing, things with more meaning. I love the little moments here, but just want to focus on some of the big ones. I do love that Tywin gets the great update from Dany. It is one of my favorite scenes, or update on Dany. Varys delivering news from the east. Oberyn there to kind of back the play a little bit. I love that moment. I love we're still a few seasons away, and we get those little bits along the way. That great Tywin and Joffrey scene. You will be in council at this very moment. I love it because we know what's coming, but at the time it was so exciting. Going back to watching this episode in 2014, it's so exciting because it is even something that the books couldn't answer for us. Is Dany going to get back? What's going to happen when Dany hits those shores? Is she going to win? She's got those dragons, got the nuclear football. There's no way she can be defeated. So just getting these kind of mentions and connecting those worlds, because it doesn't happen a lot, especially, it doesn't happen at all, quite frankly, of the two Essos and Westeros being combined. There's little moments, obviously. But I think when Arya goes to Bravos, even Stannis and Davos, it's weird. It was weird to see them, right? It's like mainlanders, main cast going off to the second set here at Essos. But Dany's obviously main cast, but she's always there. And that was the joy of finally, some of the later seasons of seeing these, people that would acting opposite people they hadn't been acting against, for 4 or 5 seasons. To see Dany on Dragonstone, just see Dany in Westeros. I loved all that stuff. It's like, I don't know, watching a baseball player get traded to a different team and suddenly in a new uniform after you've seen him so long. So I love all of that there. But I loved, I just love taking myself back to this mindset of just like Tywin hearing about Dany. Just reminder, it's all on the same map. We don't see them playing together, but it's all on the same map. And it would get me really excited for what's to come. And I think I still have that now. So this has definitely more meaning. But there's some big ones there. 2 big ones I just want to talk about there. Going again, we'll talk some more here. But Tywin's inability to control Tyrion, their war against each other, and Tyrion calling for the trial by combat, which will erase any deals behind any closed doors. But it is just Tywin versus Tyrion, and we got so much in this episode of Tywin once again being in control, totally in control. Except for this play at the end. And talk about foreshadowing. Talk about he just can't control all of Tyrion's actions. That is leading us to something big. Dany hits an obstacle on a road to becoming a great queen. That's kind of saying it lightly. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in a second, but it's pretty important stuff, especially going back now, which is what I've been loving doing, is with all 8 seasons and the HBO story out in front of us, to go back and look at these moments. This is a giant test for Dany. I've become really fascinated by the journey of Dany on this rewatch, and the areas, the tough spot she's in. And this is the first one. So there's just a lot of foreshadowing, a lot of additional subtext and meaning when you go back and watch Dany take an audience with Hizdar, the goat owner, and all that stuff there. So many moments. I've talked about them a lot here, but trying to break it down. Davos' speech to Iron Bank, of course, is great. Again, I want to shout out Mark Gatiss as Tycho Nestor's. Mark Gatiss, of course, a very accomplished actor. Loved it when he came back, clean shaven. I like him with the beard better, if anyone's keeping score at home. Love the scene, everything about it. Classic Game of Thrones. So said a lot there on that one there. Little moments here in the Greyjoy sequences. The only real big physical action we got. I don't know. I've always loved shirtless, bloody Ramsay showing up for a fight. Just like a crazy Saturday night for him. I was having some sex. Now we're fighting. This is great. Ramsay's not a character ever root for, but he's played with such wonderful gusto that delicious scene chewing villainy. I just love him showing up at the door, shirtless, pants probably barely on, excuse me, just caught in the middle. What he was doing other things. And now here he is fighting. I just absolutely, I just love. There's something very funny about that. And Miranda's up there waiting. I'm surprised Miranda wasn't down there, shirtless, covered in blood, with like a bow and arrow. Those crazy kids. Who knows what they like? So I love that little moment. Go into the small council scene. Lord Kiss Ass, Mace Tyrell. I mean, it's just some of the best comedy in this giant, this big important scene, this big trial going on, and you got old bumbling Mace Tyrell. Roger Ashton Griffiths plays him so beautifully. Just the quest for relevance. It's not even. And that's he's not a character that. Mace thinks he's important. I think that's the key. You see that especially later on with some of the stuff with once Marjorie is captured and all that stuff when he comes into the city with the big armor and everything. He thinks he's important, but I think that the trick to making Mace really work in this show is Mace knows he's not important, thinks he's important, knows he's not important. So everything about it is just this wonderful, wonderful special breed of bluster. And I love everything here. And then in Tywin just could not give up. Beep, just fetch my quill and paper. Love those moments there. That whole sequence though, it's a great small council scene. I love Tywin. And Tywin kind of, I don't know, I guess confirming more than realizing the folly of Cersei. And that's pretty big. If you just look at this scene, this is why, again, it's easy just to, and you should just look at the Tyrion scenes and remember that more than anything else. I think you should. Those are the better scenes if you're ranking them scene by scene. But this is one of those moments where Cersei has fashioned herself as more of Tywin Jr. than the others, and saying so much to her father. Maybe I'm the only one that paid attention. And we know what she wants. We know she wants this kingdom, and hopefully this kingdom will fill the hole in her heart. And we know that the answer is no, and the very kingdom will crumble on her and kill her and destroy her again. The pursuit of your goals just might be your undoing. Is a lot of things we see in this show, but I think this is one of those moments where Tywin knows. Again, that's why I don't want to use the word realizes, but he just kind of sees it on it's a full display in front of him. You got Oberyn there, kind of like, I've seen the Unsullied, and Cersei's kind of trying to play it off. But Barristan's there, and Jorah's no longer loyal, and Oberyn's seen all of this, and he loves it. And Varys loves it too. Larger every year, my grace, when she talks about the dragons being just babies. So great stuff with Varys, great stuff with Mace. Pycelle, Julian Glover, always great. But I just love Tywin kind of confirming Cersei's folly, Oberyn getting the full picture, and just Varys at his snarky best. The scene that follows this, go with me, I might consider it the heart of the episode, which is saying something. I don't know if that quite qualifies as a hot take, but it's saying something with the trial of Tyrion reaching this big crescendo in the scenes that follow this. But there's something about the heart of the episode going on here when Oberyn and Varys have their conversation before the throne. And I want a supercut of great Varys conversations before the throne, by the way. The reason I say that, we'll get into the themes and lessons here, but it's a conversation about desire. And on the surface, it's a conversation of Oberyn just assuming certain things about Varys and his sexual proclivities, identities, and desires, and Varys surprising him and perhaps us by saying none of it. And I see what desire does to people and what it's done to this land. I think in a way this is the heartbeat of the episode, because it's delivering this theme, and then the rest of the episode is about everyone having certain kind of desires. Now, again, Varys and Oberyn are talking more, they're talking shop relationship wise is the surface of it, but just that these desires that everyone has to be king, to be a better queen, to get revenge, to break the wheel, and then romantic desires, or the desires of the heart with Tyrion and Shay. You see what it does to everyone, and you see what it is doing to this realm. So that's why I think this is the heart of the episode, though the other scenes are the bigger scenes and should be treated as such. Love any little moments where you got like the Kingslayer brothers, great punk band. I love seeing Jaime and Tyrion in these heartbreaking moments. There is a great little moment going to the trial. I think I love, we know where Peter Dinklage goes with this character in this sequence. It's wonderfully over the top. It is just years of repressed rage, years of just, I can't stand these stupid people. I drink myself silly to help process just having to just to live in this world with these people who look down on me, spit on me, and they want me to be this monster, and I wish I was. It's a great scene. It is the speech of speeches, but it builds to that. And it starts with, Tyrion being escorted there. Have I been pardoned? The jokes like that. But then the sad moment of Tommen, King Tommen, recusing himself from the trial, total show. And just the empathy, the compassion, the understanding, and the pain that Tyrion has, and how Dinklage plays that moment. Where he just kind of gives a knowing nod to Tommen. Poor Tommen, you've done your role, and I hope you get better, and you deserve better. We know how that goes. So I just love that read, and the emotions start small, and then they just build and build and build. It's a perfect scene in that regard, and I think Dinklage, again, seeing these little moments and taking that read and taking that beat with Tommen. Love everything about it there. And then on the other side, I love watching Lena Headey in these scenes. Love watching her in all scenes. But there's just something going on with Cersei that I really, really love. And from my perspective, throughout this trial, she knows none of this is true. I think she could be. We don't know who did it, so maybe Tyrion did. It'd be great if Tyrion was the one. But whereas Tywin sees this chaos as a ladder to climb to get what he wants, Cersei is flailing a little bit because she's so hurt. She's a character who has been hurt. She's been treated so wrong for so long, and power did not make that better. Being queen did not make that better. Being queen regent has only made it worse. Losing her son has just added to the gaping hole in her heart and soul. She wants this sense of justice that she has, but it's really just about wanting to cover the pain. And she, Lena Headey plays it. There's so many moments where she plays it with just this weariness to me. Now, when she takes the stand, it's a little different. Love Mace Tyrell. Oh, thank you. You're so brave. Your testimony is so brave. It's it's there's a lot going on with Cersei, is what I'm trying to say. But there's just some great shots. If you're going back and watching this episode, look at some of the great shots they have, and I just, Cersei's in pain. Just dumping as many things onto the wound to try to make it better. And it's, to me, played like that as many times. It's sad. It's tragic. I do think in the end, Cersei is a tragic character to me. Done so wrong for so long, and when she does what she can to take control, and she takes a lot of control, it never fills the void. And here's this big scene. She brother's going to be killed. She's kind of wanted that her whole life, just to make it all better. And it's not. And I think you get that in a lot of the looks from Cersei here. On a funnier note, Grandmaster Purcell's line that the most noble child the gods ever put on this earth. This whole thing's a farce. He hates Joffrey. He hates everyone here. He's still playing his game, but I love that. I love that moment. The reveal of Shay, Sybil Kelly coming back and just breaking a lot of hearts. And it's an interesting, it's a slight, the overall story with Shay is, of course, not a divergence from the books at all. But as we've discussed before, she comes in, breathes kind of a different life. Even George R. R. Martin has said she changed kind of even how he had viewed the character. I'm paraphrasing that. You can find some of the interviews there. He's just always loved her work in this show. And, I think I think this plays so well. I think this is a victory for the show. I never want to pit the show versus the books. I hate those kind of conversations and that dialogue, but they're able to do things differently with Shay. Again, we have to see it. We're not reading it. There's just more of a connection, but it's weird because I remember other than obviously being upset at Shay, you can, understand a little bit how she gets there. But it's not that the turn happens fast. You're seeing it. You're seeing it play out in front of you. Just It got to me. It got to me. And not in a super negative way, like they did this wrong or everything, but just I just couldn't believe that she turned that hard and that deep. And it obviously breaks him, as we'll discuss. So I do love that. Do love that. I do love talking about little looks, jumping back a little bit. When Jaime, again, learns his father is kind of, once again, playing the long game and in control, at least before it all ends up the way it does. I love a lot of looks on Jaime's face. Just again, I'm taking this big stride forward to do something for Tyrion and not me, and it didn't matter. It was all part of your plan. I feel played. Looking at the themes, as I love to do, the themes and the lessons. It's not always just about the themes, but it's some of the lessons and the big questions the show is asking us. I put the dangers of desire as one of the big themes, perhaps the theme of the episode. It's heart over mind. You go to the Varys conversation. You go to him. It's in simple. It's sold. It's discussed in terms of sex and love, relationships, and that's true. But I think it goes again beyond that to everyone's desires. And there's a lot of desires on display in this episode, and it's just tearing apart everyone. Simple. Dany's desire to be a better queen has her main pet dragon burning goats, and more to come, more horrible things to come. It's just kind of a microcosm of the bigger things at play in this episode, and we see what's going on this trial, this farce, and Tyrion's got a way out. He's got a way out. Tywin has put his plan into motion. Jaime helped strike the deal. I think Shay doesn't show up. I think Tyrion takes it. It would have been another win for his father. But Shay shows up, and it's heart over mind, and that breaks him. One of my favorite little moments is when Tyrion just says, Shay, don't. And he's saying it for her. He's saying her because she doesn't want her to do this, and he can't take it too. It's so sad. It's so sad. And this scene remembered for all the great yelling and screaming from Tyrion. It's that Shay don't that sticks out to me a lot. It has to do again with the heart. Desires of the heart breaking a lot of people. But I do love Tyrion taking the win away from Tywin. I do love it. And that's what it's about. Kind of on the surface with Tyrion and Tywin. But I love that. I love that final shot, the push in on him. I declare a trial by combat. Tywin gets an L. He might get some sort of win later. Tywin's always going to try to play it. But in this moment, Tyrion's not going to let him win. He's not going to let any of them win. That's great. There is this idea of the theme of, power is power, which isn't a good theme. And I've talked to some people, some friends of mine, they're like, it's kind of what the show's about. To take power, you must, win power. Only the strong survive. I think the show's definitely kind of trying to teach us on the poison that power can be, and those who get trampled underneath it, and the pursuit of it, and the desire of power. But starting this episode with the Iron Bank, and they're talking about you're talking about your blood, and we're talking about numbers. Our numbers are loyal. I think of the House of the Dragon trailer of, they won't remember, legacy. Iron Bank don't care about your name. They care about the numbers. And so it is a little bit of a reminder of the true powers and how that will affect the story and who's behind things. And Tyrion standing up against that. That's why it's a big win for me. Costly as it may be, life-changing as it may be, life-altering for many as it may be. He kind of stands up to this idea of power is power. Here's the Iron Bank talking about their gold, talking about their numbers, and they acknowledge, even though I think they feel they have a little bit of control over Tywin. Tywin is the power. So a little reminder of that. Moving on to Dany as we start to wrap up today's episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for going along in this rewatch journey. Sorry it's taking longer than I planned. We might do about 2 rewatch episodes a month now, and then the rest will be news as we race towards House of the Dragon. The rewatch will continue during House of the Dragon and Rings of Power. We'll get there. I'm excited to get to the end of this. More than halfway there. I called this theme, but it's more a lesson. It's more just a conversation to have. I call it the riddle of ruling. Daenerys faces some choices. I called them obstacles. It's a big quandary. And hanging over that is this idea that the always present nature of a dragon. That's how I take a lot of the Drogon stuff. And yeah, dragon in terms of just the Targaryen family, but more specifically her. I think often of Olenna Tyrell. You're a dragon. Be a dragon. In this episode, we see that lurking behind those big, beautiful dragons up there in the shadow of their wings is their true nature. We saw that earlier with Jorah and Dany having that little moment where Drogon kind of snaps at mommy. They're dragons, Khaleesi. They're dragons. And Dany's a dragon. She is trying so hard. And on this rewatch, I told you, I've just been kind of obsessed with every little beat with Dany, especially now that she's in Meereen. An arc that the first time through, I always was a little frustrated in a loving way, because I just, love Emilia Clarke in this role, love Daenerys Targaryen, but always was a little frustrated with Meereen. And Dany in Meereen, as we've talked about on the show before. But watching her in this episode this time around, it's just this riddle. Her intentions are so good, and she makes what is a good decision here. I'm talking about the goat herder. Her intentions are always good, but this was an easy one. The dragon has shown his nature. That's not good. I don't want that here. I don't want to be a dragon here. I want to be a queen. I want to be a fair and just and balanced ruler. She's getting to the big, I want to break the wheel moments. So she does what is right. She does what is absolutely right. We'll pay you 3 times. Sorry about your goats, man. My dragon's getting hungry. We'll figure that out. We'll get him some canned food, but don't worry. And I love the look. There's 2 great little choices that Emilia Clarke makes in this entire sequence here. And the first one is when the goat herder is learns of his compensation. He's kind of happy. And Dany and Missandei kind of share a look. It's not that Dany's saying, this is easy. It's a little bit of that. I think there's a little bit of that. I think that's a little intentional. Look, this was a problem. My dragon ate his goats. Sorry. I'll give you 3 times the amount. He's happy. Hey, Missandei, this is great. I got a handle on this. Hizdar comes in next, and I do want to shout out Joel Fry as Hizdar Zolorak. Joel Fry, who's right now in Our Flag Means Death, and everyone loves that show. I'm just an episode into that one. Can't wait to dive into more of that one. I love all the great things I'm hearing about it, but Joel Fry's in that show too. I don't know if he gets a lot of credit for Hizdar. I think it's because Hizdar is one of those characters. He's a later in the show character, so he's like a new generation cast member. We don't immediately love him. You're not meant to immediately love him. We definitely are not rooting for him and Dany to get together. We definitely see that it's a political game. And because the story plays out a little differently than it does, and it will play out in the books, our relationship with him is a little different. But I think Joel Fry is great in this role, and I particularly love him in this scene. We talk about again the quandary that Dany is always in is this justice versus injustice and revenge, and how do you break the cycle of violence? She talks often about breaking the wheel, but how do you break the cycle of violence? And I think Hizdar represents that. It represents that riddle, represents that quandary. It's, to me, there's a lot of early challenges Dany faces, and some she's already faced. But I think in terms of Dany and Meereen, it's without a doubt, not saying anything that you guys all haven't seen, but this is without a doubt like the first big, because Goat Guy was easy. And she reacts how you would think, maybe how even you would react. Ooh, your dad helped maintain this pyramid. I'd love to meet him. Oh, I killed him. Well, good. He was a master. I'm here to provide justice. I'm here to free people, humans that you've enslaved. Absolutely, I killed him. And again, Hizdar just presents this picture of the reality of it. And this is why I really want to shout out Joel Fry. He just approaches it with there's a broken-hearted warmth to it. And there's a unavoidable, unmistakable air of truth to what he's saying. I love his line, I cannot defend the actions of the masters. And Joel Fry has a very distinct, he uses his hands a lot. I cannot defend the actions of the masters. He's just talking about his son who lost his dad and the other side of the coin. Danny's going to face that a little bit later on. I love this scene. I can't wait to get to it of the freed slave coming back to basically say, hey, can I go back to being a slave? It's that record scratch moment for Danny. But I think this is one just as powerful. Yeah, you killed my father. Yeah, he was a master. Yeah, maybe we can't answer to that. We're not advocating that slavery is good here on this show at all. But he can't answer to any of that. But he did stand against what you're so upset about. Did you know that? Did you factor that in when you nailed them all to crosses? When you brutally, slowly turned them into vulture food? My father? We have traditions. We have things we believe in here. Our land, our culture. You're trampling all over that? Yeah. The worst part of that is the slavery part. Gotcha. Can't defend the actions. Cannot defend the actions. But have you even factored in everything else? You want to rule this land. You're a queen. You're queen. You want to rule this land. Have you spent any time knowing us, learning us? So, as always with Danny, there's so much of what she's doing and the decisions she makes that I really agree with and I really understand. There's a righteous rage there. And she uses her power for good. She uses her position for the greater good. I do believe it's how it's received. And how can she learn it? And I think eventually she'll learn a lot of this. She does learn a lot of this. And then shows back up to Westeros to try to take all these new skills. And is not received well. And is not treated well by the people that she's fighting with. It's part of the journey. If she truly wants to, and Hizdar invokes what Barristan says, and when he says that line, there's that great shot of Amelia and then Barristan over her shoulder, reminding us all of what he just told her prior to this in the previous episodes. You know, when she says, "I shall answer injustice with justice," there's not 1 ounce of that I find wrong. But it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. And so she makes a decision, and that's the second big acting moment here with Amelia Clark. She's really just postures up, face is angry, the shield is up. It's not so much Danny, it is the nature of the dragon. Oh, your dad. Oh, sorry about your dad. Yeah, I killed him. And I'll do it again. Because I should, because this is what I'm here for. And she starts to see the other side of it. It's not just a compromise. I truly think she's starting to see this reality that she's in. She's trampling on this culture and wants to make changes. So how do you make these changes? How do you keep these people free? You got to understand the land, understand the people more. That's the only right thing to do. You know, we season 3 ends with the controversial white savior Misa moment. That was great. What a parade for you. Here's the reality. You just can't trample over this culture if you want to change it and you want to rule it. And so Amelia plays the shield goes down, the anger goes down, warmth, a sense of understanding, a little compassion, and perhaps knowing that she's made a mistake, even though she still has to do what she feels she has to do. And she just softens to say, go bury your father. I love that moment. I love Joel Fry in that moment. I love Emilia Clarke in that moment. And this scene ends. Where do we begin? Let me receive Goat Guy. No disrespect to Goat Guy. Don't worry about it. I'll pay you 3 times. Hey, Miss Sanday, this is great. Awesome. Boom. This real challenge shows up. His dog goes out. How many more do I have? 212 today. You got to sit on that hard throne. By the way, the back problems the Khaleesi probably has because sitting on that hard throne all day. You have 212 more to go. And I do love the look. It's kind of comical, but the look to George. George is kind of giving the old, like, yeah. It's a comical beat a little bit, but it's also Jorah like, yeah, this is ruling. And it ain't easy. This is going to be every day. And she's got 2 more big beats in these throne room scenes that I can't wait to get to. Talked about the freed slave one and back, and then, of course, the one with the daughter being killed by the dragon. And I think that's a lot of what Jorah said. It's a funny moment, but it's him saying, here, get ready. Get ready. The reality of ruling and the riddle of ruling. And what do you do? And how best can you do it while keeping yourself and keeping your goals? So there you go. I love that one there. Another theme, another lesson. It's one that I love. It's been on display in Star Wars a lot, especially in Book of Boba Fett. But, there's a lot with Theon, Reek, who are you? Real identity stuff. There's a lot with Stannis. Who are you? Who do people think you are? And are you really that? But it plays out on a big scale with Tyrion. I can't talk enough about Tyrion's speech, almost to the point of, not skipping it, but just like, it is what it is. It's just this beautiful moment, righteous rage, everything about it. Watch it again and again and again. I watched it 3 times today. But a lot of that is, are you what the world says you are? And how do you deal with that? And Tyrion has tried so hard to get beyond the little monster that everyone thinks I am. It's interesting, Meereen Trant on the stand constantly referring to him as the imp. Everyone is always reminding Tyrion of who he is. And it goes back to the first moment. The first big moment with Tyrion, I'll say. That's with Jon Snow in episode 1 of season 1. Wear what you are, wear his armor. You're a bastard, wear that. I'm the imp, I wear that. No one can hurt you with it. So I think of that moment, and I think of this moment, and him breaking down, and Shay being the thing that breaks him down. Shay, don't. And from that, just the explosion and all the truth. I saved you all. I saved you all. You won't remember me. This is a farce. This is a lie. I will not die for this. It's a repeated beat going back to season 1 with Liza Aaron. I'll confess my crimes. Yep. The old, all the masturbation jokes from Tyrion there. It's a repeat. It's a repeat of that scene. It's the same tactic, right? Yeah, I want to confess. I want to confess that I didn't do what you said, but I want to confess all these other things. But it's just to this Emmy-nominated degree. I love watching it, but it is just about him going, am I what the world says I am? Am I what the world views me as? I know that they viewed me as this, a monster. And I told Jon Snow, wear that. Wear that. All dwarfs are monsters in the eyes of their fathers. Wear that. I wear that so no one can hurt me. But at the end of the day, he's been hurt and he can't take it anymore. And that's where it is. And so it is this, I wish I was. It'd be so much easier if I was what you think I am. And something like Star Wars, you can use that as inspiration to find yourself, true identity, build. And you do that in Game of Thrones as well. But this is so different. It's the other side of it for me. Are you what the world says you are? It'd be so much easier if Tyrion was this murdering monster that everyone wants him to be. And that is going to lead us to the next episode. We're 2 away from a big trial by combat matchup. It's got to be fun to get to that one, as tragic as that one is. Can't wait to talk about that. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. I thank you all for hanging out. I hope you just kind of put the show on here in the background to maybe do the rewatch with me. Maybe you can catch up and go back. We have all the episodes to get through. On the YouTube channel, we have the playlist put together if you want to go through and do the rewatch again with me. And just listen to my takes. I'm not an expert here. a student of Game of Thrones, going back and revisiting and tracing all of the themes, tracing the lessons, taking them forward, looking back with them, and finding how this show builds and builds and builds to what the final season brings us. And just getting to explore the story again and the fun little moments like Mace Tyrell being Lord Kiss-Ass. You can follow me at Ken Napzok. You can go to my website, kennapzok.com. If you're on Facebook, give us a follow at Casterly Talk. If you want to reach out on Twitter, do so by using the hashtag Casterly Talk. No matter where you watch the show or no matter where you listen to the show, you can always go to the Anchor app, find and favorite Casterly Talk there. And from there, using your phone like a telephone, remember when smartphones were phones, you can actually call in and leave a minute-long message or question or comment here in the show, and we'll play it here. So if you want to do that about an upcoming episode on a rewatch, I can play it when I get to it, or you have a question in general, we'll do Q&A episodes more and more. So you can do that through the Anchor app. Again, some of you might not listen on the Anchor app. Not a problem. Just get it, go to the show there, and leave a message. That's it for now. We'll see you next time, friends, here on Casterly Talk.